hello to my one subscriber and anyone else who happens to stumble across it because they searched Richard Spencer gets punched in the face. I mean, due to that event, there's definitely going to be a resurgence of interest in him, because insanity is interesting. But I think he responded quite quickly after it with a video talking about him getting punched in the face, and if they can't battle him intellectually, they just punch him in the face. But he's in the street, or he's in a room full of his own supporters giving a speech. It's rarely in a place where he can be challenged, or where publicly challenged. This passage was floated onto the internet, or onto Twitter. It's about black people. It isn't a direct quote from Spencer, as the tweet would have you believe. It's one of his underlings on his website that works for his newspaper or website or whatever. So, even though it isn't directly from him, it's indirectly from him, because he must approve of what is written there to allow it to be posted onto his website. So it asks 3 questions, and then says that hopefully they will bring forth the flourishing of wisdom and a dawn of enlightenment. And the first question goes, does human civilization actually need the black race? And the answer is obviously no, but at the same time, how can there be any need for any race? And what constitutes the need for an entire race? Here is a visual metaphor to sum up basically what I'm going to say about that. It is Atlas holding the globe on his back, and in a very similar, in a parallel way, human civilization is born from the greatness of a very small number of humans. We don't need 99% of the humans on the planet, or who have ever existed. We just needed those few who brought about the advancement of humanity. But unfortunately, for the white supremacist, for the white supremacist movement to exist, it needs to cater to someone, because technically, this idea of does human civilization need people is an elitist question more suited to the Illuminati than just a racial group. And if they were to ask it like that, as the elitist question, there'd be so few people actually allowed in, it would be so easily opposed. And then in a similar way, the people that plans the genocide, because he also asks, is black genocide right? They would just rise against it and question your ability to make a choice on behalf of everyone, and what defines your worthiness ahead of your own. And then he goes on to ask, is black genocide right? Which it's not a question really, is it? He's asked one question 3 times. What would be the best and easiest starting place? Well, back in whenever it was, 1800s, 1700s, there was slavery. That seemed like a pretty good way of keeping people. And if you draw it back to the elites, the Illuminati, the real supremacists, they've clearly got the whole world under wraps with wages, by charging people to live and giving them sort of a circle to run through, a hamster wheel. In the same passage, they do mention something a little more interesting than 2 of their questions, which didn't need to be asked. And he gets at the equality of outcome, which is an aspect of the regressive left. He writes that we shouldn't be asking how can we equalise academic test scores and incomes, and then the questions. And then just that passage alone is enough to sum up the alt-right. It is a group opposing one ideology and thought process by jumping to the opposite end of the spectrum and then asking for a genocide because they can shut down that far side of the argument. But there shouldn't be inequality of outcome. There shouldn't be boosted test scores for people, or bonuses, or whatever, or hindrances, punishments for your race. It's ludicrous. This problem extends beyond white supremacism into a broader nationalism. If you assume that civilization only needs a handful of people to become civilization, and we can get rid of everyone else. Nationalism does the same thing, except it takes credit for the things your ancestors did, or a very small number of brilliant people did under your flag, rather than just your race. Things like, well, there's just a lot of things. I mean, World War II is a great example. They take credit for that. Or Britain, England, whatever, Britain. I hate saying the word Britain, it sounds ugly. I'd rather say England. England and the Allies. Because they, yeah, I mean they have to, they can't just go, yeah, we stopped Hitler, who's also white. And Anglo. But yeah, that tends to be what nationalism is, and it's, you can call it patriotism or pridefulness or whatever, but it tends to be taking credit for someone else's work. It's not plagiarism though, because you're not like thinking it. It's just compiling everyone under a banner, and because they're dead, presumably, they can't say, well, no, I don't want to be associated with that. Understanding why hate speech is illegal stems from people like this guy, from Richard. You don't need to incite violence or be violent directly, even if that's your final intention. You can inch closer and closer, more provocative messages for your followers until someone does something in the name of it. When those accusations are made against the movement, or the person who clearly kept pushing it, they shrug it off with, they don't represent the majority, that is just an anomaly. They don't represent the majority, that is just an anomaly. And then obviously it's like, well, that's kind of bullshit. And then their counter response is, well, don't people shrug off Muslims and terrorists in the same way? Yes, they do. But it's the same distinction between white people and white supremacists and ISIS and Muslims. I'm going to have to get a really good MS Paint picture for this one, or people aren't going to sit through it, because they never do. I mean, I understand that. I'm pretty sure I sound bored as heck talking, but it's written here. I mean, there's nothing to sound enthusiastic about, is it, realistically? It's not about convincing more and more people to join or persuade them with logic or sound arguments. It consists of, look at that news story, or Ben Shapiro tells you that half of the Muslim world is radical because it doesn't value women as highly as men, which is the best use of the word radical since 90s skateboarders. I want to know as well with that survey, that if they've ever asked it before, I want to know, has their view changed over time? Have they become more demeaning of women or less, or has it been about the same? We don't know, and he can't know. But what we can definitely say is that Islam is stupid because all religion is stupid. Literally or figuratively, the early books have done nothing to aid civilization or humanity. It's done more to hold it back with things like calling God almighty and omnipotent. The most it has done, actually, you can claim that, is that it's pulled people away from a nihilistic worldview. But that's it. Oh, and make a few people very wealthy.